Hello and welcome to the Scaling Europe show. I'm Seb Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe. The more engagement, the more visibility, the better guests I can get and the better coverage I can provide of the European tech ecosystem. I would also like to say a huge thank you to my sponsors, Checkout.com, one of Europe's leading fintechs, and it is where the world checks out, and SurrealDB, the multimodal database for AI agent, which is partnered with thousands of the leading organizations, including the likes of NVIDIA and Samsung. So if you like both of those, check them out in the links below. Thank you very much. I'm here with Tobias from Antler. Tobias, can you give us a super quick intro into who you are and what you do?
My name is Tobias, and I'm a partner with Antler, based in our Stockholm office and one of the partners of our fund here in the Nordics.
Amazing. What is going on in Stockholm at the moment? It seems crazy from everybody who's not in that ecosystem. It feels like every week there's another funding round, another unicorn. Like, what's it like in the city at the moment?
I gotta say, for me, who I might not look that old, but I've been more than 10 years now in Stockholm tech, which feels surreal to say. It is an incredible moment here, right? So 10 years ago, I joined my first startups. Budbee was the very first one, later a unicorn, a tech logistics company. But by then, almost nobody wanted to go into startups. It was a very different scene. It was not as much venture funding. I think the international funds were barely present here, etc. Right? We had some early successes in Spotify and Klarna, but very, very early days. Right now, it's on fire. And what's happening? I mean, I would say three things probably. You have the fact that we are now on the third wave, according to me, right? So the first wave would be you had Skype, the very first like tech unicorn from the Nordics and maybe from all of Europe. Then you had the second generation where Spotify and Klarna, who then made this generation now actually grow up with tech around them from when they were born. I mean, many of the ones who are running companies now were just born when Skype was founded. And then secondly, there's a belief in success here. I think Lovable is definitely at the moment has been the one who's been most vocal and most, Antler is always talking about building $1 trillion company. But thanks to that success and obviously Legora, Tandem, others, we're actually believing in success. We think we can build great companies. And then thirdly, it is a great talent pool and it's always been. I mean, we've always had a lot of good engineering schools. KTH is one of the most well-known ones. But now that talent wants to go into startups. Like when you meet someone who's 23 or something in Stockholm now, they don't want to go to McKinsey or into investment banking. They want to build a startup. They want to be engineers. And that's just all of that melts into this great, wonderful pot that is Stockholm at the moment.
And why do you think that is? What's changed? Is it the visibility of great founders like Anton who are like banging the drum for entrepreneurship? Like, what is it that's convinced these early insane entrepreneur or like, you know, soon to be entrepreneurs to not take the safe jobs, to not take the corporate route, but to kind of to take the harder route and to create something?
I think let's do a micro and a macro answer. The micro answer is definitely that, and the fact that like people with the backgrounds of Sebastian at Klarna or Daniel at Spotify and now Anton at Lovable make it feel accessible, right? None of them come from like a crazy background or they got a small $1 million loan from their parents. Like they've grinded their way there. And I think that's very, very, very important for everyone to feel like I just graduated from KTH or whatever uni here in Sweden. I can also do this. And at the macro level, some people have highlighted this. The upsides, I mean, there's upsides of like a very capitalistic society where everybody gets incentivized and where there's no protection. But the upsides of protection and having paid the university, paid student loans, all of this is that you can take so much risks, especially in your early years in Sweden. You can just be so risk on. And I think that's what we're seeing the benefits from right now.
Oh, so that's really interesting. It's like the culture, the socio-economic culture of, I guess, Sweden, Stockholm, and I guess it kind of applies more broadly to the Nordics, kind of creates a culture where you encourage people, you allow them to take risks. That's super interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Exactly. And you need to combine that with it still being worth it, right? So you have the tale of two countries right now. I don't want to talk badly about any other situation, right? But in Norway, leading up to their last election, there's been so much talk about how they have taxation on unrealized capital gains and how big of a problem that is and how that leads to less innovation, etc. in Sweden, even though we have a socialistic setup socialist setup where you get supported, etc., you still get a lot of benefits. So we still have, I mean, amongst the highest concentration of dollar millionaires in the world, but it's the balance of those two, right? So you can be risk on and reap the benefits, and in between there you will pay a hefty amount of taxes, but you won't get unfairly taxed, at least.
Yeah, so you build a safety net to catch people if they fall and provide them kind of a launch pad, but also make sure that you encourage that innovation and that, don't punish people for creating something that is hugely, hugely valuable.
Yeah. I don't know if you wanted a political commentary, but we can talk.
No, I mean, we actually, and we, it's so rare that the political comes into it. I mean, normally, especially when we have these conversations across Europe, it's critical, right? Because most of Europe being either regulation, like very pro-regulation, or not being pro-innovation enough, it's often a criticism of politics. It's very rare that I get a take, which is actually, the political situation in Sweden has enabled these entrepreneurs to take the risks, which I think is like an amazing point, and it's probably not something that a lot of other countries are doing as well.
Yeah, and my brother take everybody in is so obsessed. This is also a new thing in my view. This Europe versus US view comes up all the time, and people post about moving to SF and how different it is. My take on all of the talk about EU and all the things they're trying to do is just they should do less things. That would be optimal. We just want less involvement from the politics in that sense. They should make sure we have a good society, a well-functioning society, but entrepreneurs don't want to fill out forms to get grants. They don't want to do all of those things. Just to say it in this way, just let them cook and great things will happen, right?
Yeah, stay out of the way, I guess. And you've also got like a really interesting background, not just, actually quite recently you've become an investor, but for a long time you were building your own company. How are you finding that transition from building in Stockholm to investing in Stockholm? What's that change been like for you?
I gotta say, so with my last company, Memo, I think we were at some point probably fastest growing consumer startup out of Europe, marketplace for celebrity videos. It was incredibly fun. And I think seeing now and we had, of course, like a crazy pace. We went from 0 to $100 million valuations in 2 years. Seeing now the even crazier pace that companies have now, you do really get the itching in your fingers. You can really feel, oh my God, these guys are having so much fun because thanks to AI, obviously, you can build so much faster, be leaner and everything. And I would say I would probably be bored to death if I were sitting at like more of call it a classic seed fund and doing 1 or 2 deals per year. And I would spend like all my days just reviewing decks. So, that wouldn't fit me. But now at Antler, I mean, I get to do a lot of the investments and I get to work very hands-on with those companies and those founders from day 0 to 1. And that makes it fucking amazing for me. Sorry for swearing, but that makes it very, very much fun.
And how is, Antler it's been famous for its day 0 approach. But given the growth of like AI tools and how quickly you're able to like build products, ship, create content to get distribution, how has the day 0 approach changed? And I know that you haven't been at Antler for that long, but what does day 0 look like now, given the prominence of AI tools?
Great question. I'm just coming up to my 1.5 year anniversary here, so I'm still very early and I can only compare to what I've heard about the past days. But I definitely do think if you compare for us or other early stage investors, 5 years ago, you could have a deck and you could raise on a deck and have an idea about something to build and sell. But that almost never happens anymore. Even for us, who's like the very, very early stage first ticket investor, I'm just build the easiest or like smallest version of this, get the first customers. So that's really what has changed. And that's thanks to, obviously, you can build it in Lovable, or if you are an engineer, you can build it with Cursor or Claude or whatever, so much faster. And also, I just think that's the mentality right now with the discussion around like what's a moat now that software is getting commoditized. It is just having that pace, right? It's who can have the pace. And if you don't show that pace in the beginning, then I'm pretty unsure that you're going to be able to grow into pace later, right? So day 0 now is all about build something, ship something, sell something, then we'll invest, basically.
Interesting. And then, Antler's always been quite hands-on. So when you do invest or when you're helping your companies, what is the support or the advice that you're giving to these companies?
Well, I mean, I I've jokingly called myself the CEO of the CEOs sometimes, but that's not to make it sound like I know more than them or anything. It's just that a CEO always has to push everybody else, right? And then I'm the one who comes and try to push on the one thing that matters in an early stage startup, and that is traction, right? So they might be pushing their technical team or to ship something, etc. And then every week or even more frequently, I come and ask about how many customers have we closed? Like, are we actually growing? Are we seeing traction? And of course, just one part of it is just pushing them on it. That's, I think, a big part of the help. And then it's, of course, also helping them and doing introductions and making sure they build the right structures and processes and everything. But around growth and traction is definitely the most important piece.
Got it. And what kind of, what's the kind of the makeup of the companies that you're seeing at the moment? And I think, are you investing just in Stockholm, or is it across Nordics, isn't it, more broadly?
Yeah, so Antler setup, we have I think it's 13 or so local funds, and one of those is a Nordic fund. So we have offices in Stockholm, Oslo, Helsinki, and Copenhagen. I personally mostly work with our Stockholm-based portfolio, but I see everything across.
Got it. And so, what's the makeup of the companies? Europe is doing disproportionately well on the application layer when you look at the data, and also just like, the biggest companies coming out of Europe, whether it's Lovable or Fixer, Lagora, they're often at the application layer. Is that what you're seeing as well at the companies at kind of day zero? Are you seeing a greater proportion of application layer companies?
Yeah, for sure. I would say out of the deal flow that we're actively looking at, it's probably anywhere between 60 to 80%, 70 to 80% application layer AI companies. To be absolutely frank, that's the vast majority. And it's just because the opportunities there are so big, right? And then in the last 20, 30%, it's not that part is like foundational model AI. You barely see anything of that, or close to nothing. The last 20, 30% is more just like other stuff in AI, right? Whether it's hardware or similar. Of course, hardware can have AI as well, but you understand how I mean, not a pure application layer. So.
Yeah, and what is particularly exciting at the moment? Are you seeing, or are you looking for companies that are solving new problems in different ways? Like, what is it that really, when you see a company, you're like, okay, this is a great company, this is super exciting?
It's a great question. For me, I mean, it always comes down to the founders and making sure the founders have some level of magnetism or like charisma that just makes you like, oh my God. I think before I joined Antler, I spoke to one of our partners in Europe who was the best indicator for him is if he couldn't go to bed without thinking about the founder he met earlier that day. That sounds romantic. I don't mean it like that. That's the number one indication, right? Because that person will have that effect on other people, and that will compound to better sales, better hiring, better fundraising. So founders is number one. Secondly, on like the type of companies, I just think now is such a ripe time to reinvent so many software businesses, right? And there's this talk about, is software dead, etc. I still think software will be around and we'll use it, but there's so many legacy software players that will be replaced by a new generation now with leaner teams, different capital structure, different pricing structures, and that's really, really exciting at the moment.
And how is your experience, being a founder? How is that shaping the way that you are kind of approaching conversations with founders?
Well, you should ask the founders, but I do think I'm pretty straightforward with them. I have this kind of like nickname or whatever that I'm a startup therapist for many, because now we talk a lot about like the very first part, right? Meeting a founder and selecting and investing. But then there's the relationship that stretches for ideally like 10 plus years into the future. And what you know as a founder is that you will feel like shit and you will have huge challenges all the time. Like, because when it's going great, then one of your best hires leave to start a startup, or that also happens when it's going poorly as well, right? Which makes it even worse. All of these things will continue to happen. And honestly, one of the few things, or one of the most important things for a founder is just staying sane and staying in the game and staying on top of your priorities and just being like coming back to, okay, what we are doing makes sense. Okay, I should do this task next, and not getting just destroyed by the fact that someone is leaving the company. You have a customer who's churning and the fundraising is going worse than expected, all of these things. So I think I'm just more straightforward and just actually helping on like, call it the psychology side of all of those things.
Yeah, always being providing a support network for founders and entrepreneurs who are going through, I guess, some of the challenges that you've already been through.
Yeah, and I mean, between Memo, my last company, and Antler, that was what I did, like more or less full time. I just said I can help you, and of course I help with how to structure fundraisers, how to do sales, how to scale a company, all of that. But a lot of it is this like mental support, and just like so many founders just needed a third party to be heard by because they didn't feel like they got that from. It's they didn't have the right co-founder setup, they didn't get it there, or it was a problem in the co-founder setup, and they didn't dare to go to the investors, and then they did somewhere where they can vent and get some feedback and input on this situation.
And how do you find that? I mean, I imagine, you make a lot of investments. There's a lot of founders. How do you find it kind of managing a big cohort or big group of entrepreneurs who all have their own struggles and difficulties?
I mean, I guess that's like having a big family and having a lot of children. You never hear someone who has like 6 or more children say that they stop caring about one of them, right?
Yeah.
It's the same for me. You care about them all, and I guess you just gotta be obsessed, right? I was thinking this Saturday when it was the 1st of November, right? And I'm always pushing my companies like, you should send your investor updates on the 1st, be on top of it, etc. And then it's a Saturday, it's the 1st of November. There's a million things I could be doing. I mean, my email inbox just like waiting for the updates and just sending texts immediately to those who send it like, fuck yeah, that's great. That's how you should send an update. That's awesome.
No.
Just a very random example, right? I'm more or less like, yeah, just being very obsessive is probably the only answer to it.
Yeah, it makes total sense. When you live and breathe and you love this stuff, I guess you're able to just keep going and persevere.
Yeah.
I wanted to get
another angle to it, Seb, actually, which is I was at a lunch with a known unnamed, call it growth investor, and he was going through his deals and how quickly they were sold and how quickly it went to DPI. And then he just kept referring back to what I do as like, well, you can do it the hard way. You can live like that. And you can have 10-year cycles until you get liquidity and stuff. And I was just sitting there like, yeah, everything you say makes rational sense, but I don't care. Like, I'm obsessed. I love this game. I love this space. I'll stay here. I'll keep doing this. You can show me like financial reasons to do something else. I'll never budge. I'll never change.
So this is it for you now. You think is this is the area that you found your kind of real passion point as early stage founders really go from 0 to 1?
Yeah. I mean, every part of life is a hypothesis at the moment, right? And you have to be willing to change it and adapt. But at the moment, yeah, I feel very much at home in doing this. I love it.
Yeah, amazing. No, look, I mean, it must be great fun. I think Antler is it's a unique investment kind of like house almost, because you do have that flexibility to work with so many entrepreneurs at such an early stage and be very hands-on, right? That's not something that most VCs get the opportunity to do, which, yeah, it must be great fun.
Yeah, but the flip side is also, as I'm sure if you've spoken to other partners of Antler, is that you have to work a lot and you have to work fucking hard. So it fits best for ex-founders as well, who knows the grind and who can just be like, yeah, you have to be 24/7 on it if you ever going to be supportive to this many companies.
And were you angel investing at all in your lead up to being at Antler? Did you have a big history of doing angel investments?
Not a very big one, but I did probably like 10 or 15 in the last 2 years of running Memo. So I had some expertise. I mean, the honest part is like I started in 2021, which was definitely the worst time ever. I mean, it's ironic because everybody always like to show everybody how good of an angel investor you are, you name drop who you angel invested with. But to me, it's like, oh, I angel invested with Sequoia in a case in France. They're now gone, well, they got acqui-hired, but return nothing to me as an angel investor. I've done like some YC cases pre they went to YC. None of those have gone on anywhere. So it's like more than like me being able to feel like, oh my God, I had such a successful angel portfolio. It showed me that like, oh, all of the things that people say on the surface in venture, you should be very scared of. It doesn't matter that much who the co-investors are and all of that. What matters is this an enduring and stable company, especially in a hype time as 2021 was, and which arguably 2025 is now as well.
And are there any lessons learned from that period of investing that you kind of are applying now that we're back at the kind of peak of the market?
Just go back to your own fundamentals and do your own underwriting. Don't trust anybody else. And I think that's great with Antler being a first ticket investor. We don't just tag along on others' decision making. We most often make investments on our own or with a trusted co-partner, but we make our own decisions all the time. I think that's probably number one. Just like never outsource your decision making, which unfortunately a lot of investors end up doing, and you shouldn't.
Yeah, have your own thesis, I guess.
And if you want to do that, then you should invest in the funds instead. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, look, Tobias, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining me. I'm actually about to speak to Charles from Strawberry. So,
Charles.
Yeah. If you've got any questions, let me know. Like, I know, but yeah, another big, Stockholm, super exciting company at the moment.
Ask him how much he misses me.
Okay, you know him well, do you? All right, that's good.
Yeah.
It's amazing, Tobias. Like, I'll definitely get you back on the show at some point. Like, yeah, I'm doing a big series on Stockholm at the moment. I want to do some longer form interviews. So thank you so much for joining me. And let's go soon.
And happy to host you whenever you're in town. So.
Love it. Sounds good.
Ciao.
Thank you.